welcome to today's session, which is on impermanence. It's something that I've been practicing a lot lately. So, first of all, what is it? The Buddhist definition of impermanence, which is very similar to the English anyway, is everything that is in existence is transient, inconstant, susceptible to change, and in a constant state of flux. So, everything in existence. And people sometimes say well, this glass here, that's always going to be a glass. But if I look closely, I see there's tiny little scratches that probably weren't there in the beginning. It gets dirty from my chapstick, so that the state of it changes. Sometimes it's clean, sometimes it's dirty. The liquid that's in front of it, you get my drift. Rocks as well. Rocks always stay the same. Not really, with wear and tear from the wind, especially if they're by the sea, from people walking on them, holding them. So really everything is in a constant state of flux. Now, why on earth is this concept of impermanence discussed in Buddhism? And I remember the first time in the monastery we did a meditation on impermanence, and I was like, I don't even get what this is all about. And then later on it became clear, and as I said, now I'm practicing impermanence like every single moment of every single day because I just want it to change now. And basically this idea that things are going to stay the same, or this grasping that we have that things need to stay the same, is the number one cause of human suffering. So, it's inescapable, it's painful. Neither negative or positive experiences or emotions are permanent. None of it is. And, people think, actually it was great. I talked to a good friend of mine who used to be my manager. We worked together, so I know her quite well. And she said to me, "How are you today?" And I said, fed up, absolutely fed up of this shit, and I just want this to be over now. I can't stand it anymore. And her reply, and I said, "But I haven't had a day like this in a while, so I guess that's good." And she went, "Oh, that's really good." And that's great. But no, we don't need people to pick up on this negative stuff. I can't change it. I can't make COVID go away as much as I really want to. So the fact, that she was kind of picking up on the impermanence of it, well, that's great that it's been so many days without feeling like that. And permanence, this idea of permanence leads to attachment, pain, and anger. We find a new partner and we're in love with them, and it's the greatest feeling. Guess what, boys and girls? That changes. Someday that changes. You're going to find out that all those cute things that are really sweet are all of a sudden irritating. And then you decide at that moment if you want to stay with that person or not. So everything changes. And you may decide to stay in the relationship and you're together for 40 years. Great, but throughout those phases, both of you are going to change. The state of the relationship is going to change. Sometimes you're going to love them. Sometimes you're going to think about leaving them. And the more that we realize and accept that everything is impermanent, the less attached we become, which in fact leads to less pain and less anger, because we understand that things are going to change and that we need to appreciate the moment. And the more that we realize that things are going to change, and I've really noticed that I've been doing this lately, in the last, I'd say 6 months, probably, particularly, I'll find myself thinking, oh God, I love this moment. This is such a great moment and it's going to change. So I'm really going to not complain about a single thing in this moment. And generally that helps me. And, like today, and even this morning when I woke up, another day of this, of being alone, of being cold, of not being able to what I want to do, but it will change. And a job will come up, or a friend, as has happened before, just comes out of the woodwork and it's different. Okay. Another thing, if we don't understand and grasp this concept of impermanence, is that it leads to expectations, which leads to disappointment. Looking like the weather. So supposedly it's supposed to be nice here. I think England is, the weathermen get the best job because they are just paid to be wrong all of the time. So I can be like, okay, the weather is great. And then it's sunny. So I go to the beach. Oh, but it's cold. I can't lay in my bikini. So it leads to this expectations. When we expect something, it always leads to disappointment, always, 100%, in some way, shape, or form. And it was interesting, even before I studied Buddhism really deeply, when I went traveling on my sabbatical, I wrote on my journal, no expectations on the cover, because I realized that I had these high expectations for these countries, and I was so disappointed, but actually there was so many other beautiful things that were happening that I was keeping a completely closed mind to because I was expecting something different. So with that, that's why it's important to think about impermanence. And it may not make sense for you. It didn't make sense for me for a long time, and then all of a sudden it just clicked. So the more we focus on this, and the meditation today is about like weird things, I'm going to be honest, but this is how it was introduced to me. And then you generally, with more and more practice, you get to see what the point of it is. And it does. I do find comfort. You know, I'm incredibly grumpy and irritated today, but I have comfort knowing, okay, so I'm going to learn something from this grumpiness and this irritation, and maybe I won't. That's fine. But, you know, then when something good happens, it will feel that much better. Something along those lines. And it's not going to change my mood, and it's not going to change maybe that negative thinking that's happening right now, but it makes me have hope, and I'm not attached to anything. Okay, so, or maybe I'm attached to the feelings of feeling good and being in my old life again, which is to me the most very constant, very changing, but that's how I function, you know, in this stillness that I've been forced to do of being alone and still is very challenging. So enough of my whinging. Hopefully you still got some good stuff from the explanation of impermanence. So we're going to start looking at the meditation today is going to thanks Danielle, she just said I like this philosophy, and it is really helpful actually. We're going to look at different things at different points in life, and then the whole point of it is not to dwell on the past, but to see how things change. So we'll kind of go from the past to the now, and it's really interesting. Interesting to see where your mind goes. Mine, I remember the first few times that I did this. So let's start with opening the body up, the body that changes every morning. Yesterday morning I woke up with huge pain, couldn't even do this. And this morning I'm able to do this with minimal discomfort. And rolling the shoulders back. And again, sometimes this feels really tight, and other times don't even notice it's moving. And the shoulders move the other way. And then twisting. And again, maybe even just getting our minds to thinking, how did it feel yesterday to move, even if you didn't do these movements? How did it feel? You know, how did it feel last year? Maybe there was an injury, so you can think about the body changed. It's different. Moving the legs back and forth. And finding your comfortable meditation position, whatever way that is. If it feels comfortable, closing the eyes, or maybe finding a soft gaze in front of us, not really focusing on anything. Bringing yourself into this meditation space. So I will help to generate compassion for all beings by reciting the 4 measurables as you settle into the space. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be dissociated from the supreme happiness, which is without suffering. May they never... I forgot it. My mind is very distracted today because I'm human. May all beings remain in boundless equanimity, free from attachment to close ones and rejection of others. So you've been reciting that daily for nearly 2 years now, and I still get distracted and forget. Okay, so imagining our open space, bringing ourselves into whatever space this is. Telling ourselves we're free from distraction, there's nobody in this space. This is time for us to grow, to think differently, to open our minds to different perspective without judgment. Starting to take in deep breaths. As we inhale, the stomach expands away from the spine, the ribs come away, the chest, the shoulders lift up. And exhaling, falls back towards the spine. Inhale, imagining a white cloud of smoke, of acceptance. I should say a white cloud or smoke of acceptance. Of a sense that everything will be okay. And as we exhaling out a black cloud, knowing of disturbing thoughts, any thoughts that are disturbing us, any emotions that are disturbing us. Each inhale, relaxing the body, and exhale, letting it fall more naturally into relaxation. Inhaling a sense of hope, acceptance. Exhaling out anything that doesn't serve us, that doesn't bring us joy, that doesn't move us forward. It's okay to hang on to some things that don't bring us joy as long as we learn from them. And again, if, like me, you've struggled, my meditation session before was very difficult. If you find it difficult to focus, that's okay. Accepting that's where you are today, the mind will be different in an hour, by the evening, tomorrow. Bringing the focus back to our open space, to this place of serenity and safety. Maybe we find the mind slowing down in whatever way that is, or maybe we don't. Accepting that's where we are right now in this moment and that it will change. In this safe, open space, think of the body. So we were born, however many years ago, as this tiny little thing that probably weighed about anywhere from 3 to 9 pounds, depending on your birth, or more. And then think of childhood when we were a toddler, pre-teen years, teenage years, and even in adulthood. So thinking about the skin. How has the skin changed? The texture. Our weight, especially for females. You know, I remember looking at pictures when I was younger and I think, oh God, at the time I thought it was so fat, and now I think, wow, it was actually really skinny. And how the thoughts of ourselves change. And how will the body look in 20 years? even these people that grasp onto the permanence of youth through Botox, plastic surgery. I mean, that's just the outwardly. I'm sure their stomach or, some part of their body that they can hide quite easily. That's changed. And then the Botox actually changes. Some people just look incredibly weird later. So it's, I shouldn't say that. That's quite judgmental. But they still don't look, even when they stop the Botox or when they do it, they don't look how they did when they were 20. It actually changes the structure of the face. So what is the point of grasping? Let's age naturally, become observers of the process. Accept that change will happen. Let go of the attachment. Begin to think of family relationships. How has it changed from our first memory up until now? How will it look in 20 years when possibly we have little of our family left? And then the family relationships continue through memories, through stories. And maybe the family relationships were unhealthy, were quite negative and damaging. So notice how that changed. Perhaps we broke away from them. Think of friendships throughout life. Even those people that are fortunate enough to have lifelong friends. Some people have friends since they were 5 years old and they're 60 and still meeting up. How have those friendships actually changed? In all of those years, did they remain the same? Did maybe people lose touch, have arguments? Maybe some friends became enemies, or maybe some enemies became friends. And bringing it to current events, think about this pandemic. One of my favorite memes is in 2015, something along the lines of back in 2015 when people said, where will you be in 5 years? And so, who was wrong now, or were they right? Something along those lines. But that's true. We have so little control over life. The only thing we can control is accepting that change is the only constant. And once we truly understand this concept, that's only when happiness comes. Think of how your life has changed now with this. Maybe you've lost your job, maybe you've lost friendships, maybe you've become detached from society. And it will change too. So the scary prospect is that, life will never be as it was. And we have to accept that. So we can either fear that change or we can say, yeah, but that's how everything is. Everything. So this is no different. As I bring the meditation to an end, realizing that if any of these questions that I asked, if that evoked any fear or panic or worry, that's totally normal. This concept takes quite a long time to grasp. But it's, it takes practice. We have to start somewhere. It's sad to realize that, I guess, especially in today's society. We have this this idea that we do need to grasp onto beauty, into youth, into happiness, and just honestly, that's not reality. That's nobody's reality. And the more that we try to grasp onto this reality, instead of accepting that everything will be different, that we will have sad times, and that too will change, then that's when we can relax in happiness and become an observer of all of the stuff that happens around us that's awful, and say, that's how it is right now. Tomorrow it will be different. Maybe even next year it will be different, but one day it will be different. And accepting this concept will take time. We spend so much time dwelling in the past, about how this good times back then, how young I looked, how thin I was, how that partner was so great. And so much time worrying about the future that doesn't exist, that may never exist in the way it does in our minds. And it's important to appreciate where we are right now, even if it's a horrible place, like I feel that right now. I need to appreciate what I can from the situation. Opening up the rucksack and placing this tool inside. This tool of trying to find comfort in a hurricane of change. Maybe any lessons we've learned from the session. Placing it on our backs, standing up, envisioning ourselves standing up nice and tall. And coming back into whatever reality is in front of us. Slowly opening the eyes. Becoming aware of the sounds that might be happening around us, or the space in the room. And as we take one more moment in this feeling of whatever we're feeling, it could be good, it could be bad, it doesn't matter. It's just where we are right now. That too will change. And placing our hands wherever you like. If this is too religious for you, that's okay. But thinking of somebody that needs some extra support, that maybe could use this lesson right now, and dedicating this practice to them, being compassionate towards others. Thinking of something nice that we can do for somebody to help them bring a bit of sunshine to their day. And thank you very much for joining the meditation today. As always, any questions or comments, please write in the comments box or send me a message.